What's going on, everybody? It's Flobo Boyce, and this is Flobo Sold on Netflix. That's the show where I get to peruse the back catalog of things that will be on your Netflix queue. Wow, Netflix queue? Things you've seen, things you probably haven't. Little mix of stuff that piques my interest, and probably it's a little bit of a sign and hope I get to go through my own queue when it's all said and done. But before I get to continue or start this episode, I just want to say thank you so much for checking out this episode and all the other episodes here of Flobo Sold on Netflix. But also, if you want more stuff, like we all want more stuff, make sure you become a member of the Boisterous crew. That's patreon.com. Has Flobo Boyce, because not only do you get this show, Flobo Sold on Netflix, you also get the reviews of comedy specials. The comedy special reviews is one a month, specifically and exclusively for the members on the Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. We call it the Boisterous Crew because we all love puns. Now, what I do love are movies that makes me feel a certain way. And, this one here is an animated feature, which I say that pretty loosely because the runtime is pretty quick. It's called Charmed. And it has a little bit of things you like, a lot of things you don't like. And, we'll go into the nitty-gritty in just a second. Here's it is. IMDb gives it a 5.6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes a 24% out of 100. Premise is simple. It centers around the character of Prince Charming on his quest to find true love to alleviate a curse that befalls a kingdom. And while he is simultaneously engaged with Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella, he knows that it's really because that he is just so dang charming. He's been hexed to be so charming that women can't help but fall in love with them. And so that's not true love for him. And of course, put that in with a little bit of a love story with a brand new character, Lenora Quinones, and you have yourself a little bit of conflict. Now, if that seems pretty fast about how I just described the entire movie, well, that's because that's the entirety of the plot. You see, there's a lot of things to like about Charming, but a lot of things to not like about it. In some ways, when I was writing the first 10 minutes of this review, I said, oh my gosh, it kind of reminds me of the original two Shrek films, of having a well-known look at fairy tales and twisting it on his head. Prince Charming, to me and to my generations, was an abstract idea. It wasn't an individual with a certain charming problem. So that was pretty cool. But in a lot of ways, the plot points seem to be drawn very bluntly. You know what the conflict was. Characters will stop the movie to give you giant dumps of exposition. The conflict of true love versus not true love seemed pretty apparent, and it was a matter of time of not who, but when, which is why, even though the film is pretty short, it does feel pretty long, because it's kind of like, well, when are they going to get together? I guess, got to be honest with you, it's a spoiler, right? Prince Charming does not end up with Cinderella here. But on top of that, though, what was more peculiar to me was that even though there really was a will there or won't there between the female characters and Charming, it kind of comes suddenly. It's this weird concept of time where the plot was stretched thin and dragged out, but even though we were kind of ahead of the ball, we wanted to keep going. So that usually says it's a lack of depth. Now, is lack of depth makes a movie instantly bad? No, it can't make the movie the best of all time, but you and I both know this films we put on, we want to entertain people or to have a conversation with or to make dinner, so you don't have to pay attention the entire time while it's playing. Or if you have some nieces and nephews, you want to make sure if they have a princess or dragon phase or that medieval kind of phase, they'll have some of that fun while you set up the next activity. So it's not necessarily a bad movie in that case, but it's not a deep movie, not at all. And even though the animation today isn't as good as Pixar and DreamWorks films of today, it still blows my mind that even off-brand animated features have come such a long way from what it was 5-10 years ago. There was a time and place where you could look at a movie from across the room that wasn't Pixar and go, oh yeah, that is not good. But this one here, there's some things I like. The backgrounds were really well done, especially in the King's Dining Hall, which made me stop, put that in my notes. Oh, that's great. But yeah, some of the motion, some of the fabrics are kind of bland if you're into that kind of thing. If you're critiquing the fabric use in these animated pieces, that sort of thing. A couple of things I loved. Character-wise, the Matilesia, the land of the female giant race, fantastic twist on things. I love the half oracle. Those are the kind of characters that kind of stuck with me, even though the film seems to have them confined to a scene or two. I think that was my favorite one, and definitely the executioner, which is a kind of subversive take on an executioner, because it's not so much that he loves to kill people. It's more like, hey, it's a job. I got bills to pay. I gotta do something I'm good at, and well, I'm gonna try to make this as painless and as friendly as I can. Because even though I'm an executioner, doesn't mean I have to be a jerk. Which, played by John Cleese, was overall my favorite performance of the movie. The Matalesia and the half oracle, my favorite character, but John Cleese has the execution. My favorite performance. A lot of the things that you can pull from and say, I dig. I like some of the songs. Granted, a lot of the songs are kind of play in the background, but the Trophy Boy track was catchy enough. But it's not a bona fide musical like you're used to a lot of Disney films. It isn't necessarily a pop music revival jam like the Shrek's movie, where everything just seems kind of secondary. Like, oh, let's add some color after. Here's the story. Let's add a cool side character. Let's add a animal sidekick. Let's add a all is lost moment. Let's add a love story type deal. And that's why it's pretty disjointed. But overall, flaws and all, you can't hate it. You really can't. It's not really bothering anybody. It's not trying to do anything out of the ordinary. And Demi Lovato isn't the best voice actress, but she wasn't bad either. So it's delightfully average. And I do think, I go back to the ratings here, at 24% of Rotten Tomatoes, a little bit harsh. I think it's a little bit harsh for what it is. At a 5.6 from IMDb, that's fair. For me, I'm going to give it an even 5. I enjoyed it. A lot of things I dug about it. I looked at my watch the last half an hour of the movie, the last 25 minutes. I said, well, it's essentially over. What could they possibly add on to this? Which is not a good sign. But again, there are movies that have done a whole lot worse. And that does it for me here on this edition of Flobo on Netflix. That was charming. You can get it right now on Netflix, depending on what part of the planet you're from. Either it was released in 2018, 19, or 2021 for us in the United States, finally on the platform. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on the social medias. Also at flobito.com, FLOBITO.com. And if you have a suggestion or a movie or Netflix film you want me to check out, please do not hesitate. But until next time, that does it for me on Flobo. Saw it on Netflix.